Hey guys, Javino here, and finally I am back. You may have probably been wondering where I've gone, and if you've been following my channel for quite a while now, you'll probably realize that I have the worst luck with technology, and yes, once again, my technology has failed me. My beautiful Yeti microphone decided to stop working, so I had to send that back to Blue Mic. And they sent me a new one, and I got that finally. So my mic's back, I'm back, everything's back, and everything is all good. And today I am bringing to you a new series that I've been wanting to do for a while, but haven't really got around to it, and the whole mic issue really didn't help with anything. But you guys all know I love Nazi zombies, and I haven't really gotten a dedicated series. I kind of had the zombie challenges thing going on there for a while, but I didn't really get much done with that. And I've really been wanting to start up a dedicated zombies series, even though it's kind of a little late for that because Modern Warfare 3 is coming out in less than a couple weeks. But who knows? I may try to continue it through Modern Warfare 3. We'll see. Depends how much time I actually spend playing Modern Warfare 3. But I'd like to get a foundation started anyway. But I'm digressing here, so let's get started with the actual video. Now, what this series is basically I pick a gun in Zombies, not the multiplayer, because Zombies actually has different versions of the guns, if you didn't know that. And I basically just give you all the stats, all the information about it, all that nice goody stuff for you zombie-loving fans. Blah, blah, got tongue-tied there. But yes, let's go. In this video, I found it suiting that for my first video, I would start off with the gun you start off with in Zombies, the first gun. If you've ever played Zombies, you've used this gun. It's the M1911, the crappy pistol you start off with, and arguably one of the worst guns in the game. Though I'll talk about it a bit later, but I actually find there are worse guns to use, like the sniper rifles and stuff. But about the gun itself, you'll see this beautiful little table I created on the left side here, just listing off all the stats so you guys can read them while I'm telling you about them. Just a little note here, if anybody has better graphic skills than I do, which isn't that hard because I suck with Photoshop, please feel free to make me a new table, a new little graphic thing, because this is just pitiful. It's just terrible. And I hate using it, but honestly, I don't really have anything else to use at this point. So if you feel that you can make a better one, please send it to me. Or if you know somebody who could, please send me their link or something, because I just want to get rid of this monstrosity. But yeah, here we go. You'll see that the clip size for the M1911 is 8 shots, and it has another 80 shots in reserve ammo. So that totals 88 shots. Now, if you get the max ammo when you've got an empty clip, obviously you'll lose one clip worth of ammo, so you only have about 72 or 80 shots, because normally it can hold 88, but generally you won't be seeing that much, and that goes for pretty much every gun. It fires at 625 rounds per minute. That's the number is measured in rounds per minute. That's always going to be there. I just don't really have enough room to put the RPM in there. The reload time is 1.63 seconds, and if you didn't know, guns actually usually, there's exceptions, but guns usually reload slower if the clip is completely empty, as opposed to even if it has 1 or 2 shots left in it. Now, some things like shotguns and actually the next gun I'll get to after this do have the same reload time, whether it's empty or not. So that's something to be aware of. Just if you want to reload before your clip's empty, it'll usually give you a quicker reload. It's got very low penetration, being a pistol. And the speed multiplier, what that is basically when you're running with it, the speed multiplier is basically how much the gun affects your speed, like the weight of the gun affects your speed. And since this has an even 1, it basically means you have the base speed. You just run normally, which is actually really fast because pretty much every gun affects your running speed. So it's nice to have out a pistol or some really light gun when you're trying to run around or get places quickly, because you'll run a lot faster than, say, if you're using an LMG or something of that sort. And the damage for the gun, we'll get to the bottom half of this table, the damage for the gun ranges from the minimum damage of 20 damage per shot to the maximum damage of 70 damage per shot. So the minimum damage is basically the least you could possibly do with a shot. If you got the worst shot in on an enemy, as long as it hits them, you'll do 20 damage, basically. And the max damage is essentially if you get everything right, got a headshot, just perfect hit, you'll do 70 damage. So you can't do more than 70 damage, you can't do less than 20 damage. And the max damage per clip is essentially the maximum damage you can do per shot multiplied by how many shots in a clip, which is 560 damage. And the max damage you can do, period, that's just with all the ammo. If you have a completely full gun and you just pull out these mad frickin' pistol skills on the zombies, you'll do 6,160 damage. Now, for the individual body parts, the head and neck, if you shoot a zombie in the head or the neck, you'll do 70 damage. If you shoot a zombie in the upper torso, the chest, you'll do 25 damage. And if you shoot a zombie in the lower torso or the abdomen area, you'll do 22 damage. And then in any of the limbs, hands, feet, any of that sort of stuff, you do 20 damage. So you can really see how effective a headshot actually is when it comes to killing zombies. It does almost quadruple damage. It does 3.5 times as much damage as, say, shooting them in the hand. And you can also use this knowledge to actually gain a lot of points, because if you want to milk them for points, you really want to shoot them in a spot that doesn't do much damage, because then you can get a lot more shots in without killing them. So in this case, you'd want to shoot them in the hands or the feet, because you can get a lot more shots in than, say, if you're shooting them in the head. But with all that information taken into consideration, I rate this gun a 2 out of 10. Now you may be thinking, what the heck, this is like the worst gun in the game, why wouldn't you rate it a 1? Well, my friends, I actually prefer this gun over things like the ballistics knife or the sniper rifles, stuff like that. Rocket launchers also, I hate those things. Just because they may do more damage, but they get you nothing for points. This gun, in the higher levels, you'll get so many shots off in zombies. If you have a whole train of zombies behind you and you just fire this thing into them, you'll get so many points from that. As if you have a China Lake, 1, it won't kill them, and 2, you won't get any points for it. So those kind of guns I would rate at a 1, and I would bump this one up to a 2. It's still a really bad gun, but it's better than those other ones I just listed. Now, I've decided that when I make these videos, I'll also include the upgraded counterpart of the gun, which in this case is the Mustang and Sally. And I'll also include all the stats and stuff. I'll just kind of make these videos a dual combination of the gun and its upgraded counterpart. So I'm going to get into the stats of the Mustang and Sally, and for some reason, this gun undergoes a drastic change when you upgrade it. It's probably one of the biggest changes in respect to every other gun in the game. The clip size, this is also one of the few guns that when you upgrade it, some of the stats actually go down, which is kind of strange, but it definitely makes up for it in firepower. The clip size is 6 shots in a clip, and it's got 50 shots in reserve ammo, so that totals a 56 shot total amalgamation of kick-ass, because the good thing about this gun, if you've never used it, is it shoots grenades. And it's dual wield, so you've got 2 pistols that shoot explosives. So this gun does a complete 180 turn from being one of the worst guns in the game. As soon as you spend $5,000 on it, this thing turns into one of the best weapons in the game. Because if you look at the bottom, you'll see I rated this thing a 9 out of 10, which is a pretty major improvement than a 2 out of 10. So it fires 300 rounds per minute, which is also down from the M1911, which was 625 rounds per minute. And the speed multiplier is still 1, so it's no heavier, it's no lighter, you still run the same as the M1911. The penetration is non-existent because the grenades explode on impact. There is no penetration, and a penetrating grenade launcher would be the strangest thing ever. And the damage actually is a lot bigger range. It ranges from 0 damage, and I'll explain how that's possible, to 1,200 damage per shot, which is a significant improvement over the 70 max damage you could do with the pistol before. Now, the max damage per clip is 7,200 damage compared to the 560 it was before. And the max damage you can do is a whopping 60,000 damage, which is 10 times what you could do with that of the M1911. Now, The reason you can actually do zero damage to a zombie is because since it's explosive, it's got a radius, and the closer the zombie is to the center of that radius, the more damage the gun does. And if the zombie is on the very edge of the radius, like it literally just clips him by a pixel, it won't even do it a single hit of damage. That's how you can do that zero damage with still hitting them. Now, the explosive radius is actually 200, and to put that in perspective for you, the frag grenade has a radius of 256. So each shot is a smaller radius, a tiny bit smaller than a frag grenade. So you can see why these guns are pretty fantastic. And you'll see at the bottom, it actually says 0 for any body part shot. And that's because this gun doesn't do any damage for direct impact. It's 100% based around the explosion. So it doesn't matter if you hit them in the head or the arm or anything, as long as that explosive radius is around their body, like right beside their body, it'll do the same amount of damage no matter where you hit them, which is pretty good because akimbo weapon, well, I guess they're called dual wield in Black Ops, aren't very good for aiming. So that's a good thing that you don't want to be going for the head when you got these freaking explosive pistols you're spraying everywhere. Now, one major thing I would like to point out with these guns is they are extremely good at suicide. Like, I've killed myself a countless amount of times with these things because the explosion is just huge and they do so much damage. You can easily just accidentally pop a couple shots into the ground and you're down. So I would extremely advise anybody using these guns to get PhD flopper because that reduces the self-explosive damage to 0. So you can just start shooting the ground and you'll be fine. Which also is a good strategy. Say if you get cornered, you walk out perfectly fine. So that is one thing I always run with. Now, the only downside to these guns is that they have a fairly low ammo capacity and they don't get you that much money. So I would advise using them as your third weapon slot if you have mule kick or something because it's not really something you would rely on. I wouldn't really, because you can have 2 machine guns or something like that as opposed to just having the Mustang and Sally. So you really don't have that much ammo if you trade out one of those machine guns for a Mustang and Sally, which is why I really liked why they added the mule kick, because then you can have the 2 machine guns or whatever and then the support gun on top of that, which doesn't need to have that much ammo. So I would recommend with this class running at least PhD flopper and possibly mule kick if you guys, because that's just a great perk all around, to be honest. But yeah, that's about it for the stats of this gun. Another thing I forgot to point out is the only way you can get this gun is off the start of the game. If you trade out your pistol, there's no way to get it again except for dying. So if you trade that out and you want the Mustang and Sally later, you have to kill yourself, unfortunately. But it's good that the sacrifice is worth the reward because the Mustang and Sally, I find, is one of the best guns in the game to have. The only downside, the only reason I didn't rate it a 10 is because it's not something that compares to the ray gun or something like that in regards to ammo capacity, but other than that, I think they're a pretty good investment as long as you can keep that pistol to the end of the game. But yeah, that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching, and please, in the comments, put what gun you think I should do next. I'm probably going to do either the Olympia or the M14, because those are the starting room guns, and I'm probably going to work my way out, just kind of do that, and then the 70 or the AK-74 or the MP5. But if you guys really want